Hey team! Oh boy, we have a one today. Brandon's going to join me shortly. Let me add to the excitement by sharing my infamous screen. If you can all hear me, let me know. If not, also please let me know. And let's jump into it. Ooh, yes. So this is out. I thought it was kind of exciting to talk about this because there is so much to talk about, meaning that there is some agreement and maybe possible disagreement because we really don't have the Panasonic nor the Philips, but doesn't matter, right? Hey, I'm having a great day review for the tube. Always good to see you guys. All right, let me really quick change my audio because I got to move everything over to my headphones real quick. Don't want feedback. Testing there. All right. Okay. Everything is working. All right. How's everyone doing? Hope you all doing okay. This is kind of like a last minute thing. I thought it would be fun to talk about it, mostly because many of you are shopping these TVs, and there are definitely three TVs that we actually have in the US and two that we don't. And at the end of the day, the question is, does it matter, right? So the three TVs that were at the shootout today, or the four TVs, were the Sony A90J, which won Value Electronics Shootout. And then we had the Samsung QN95A, which in the USA is the QN90A equivalent, and the Philips 936 and the LG G1, and that was it. There was no Hisense dual cell or anything like that, right? They wanted to keep it among those TVs. Now, one thing I was wondering is whether they should have had the 65-inch QN900A 8K TV. I understand why they don't have the Z9J, obviously, because it only comes in a 75 and 85 inch, and they didn't have space for that. But the QN90A or 900A comes in a 65 inch, and arguably, Samsung claims that their image processing is better on the 900A. It does have more dimming zones, so who knows, right? I would have been curious to see how well the QN900A did against their 4K counterparts, but who knows? Maybe next year. And yes, Brandon will be joining us shortly. Let me double check, make sure he is on his way. Real quick here. This is pretty fun, but I think he should be okay. I know he's coming back. And let's jump into the results. Well, this is the price, if you guys don't know. Matrix. If you guys have any questions about TV pricing or deals, ask me. I'll throw this up and answer your questions. So, of course. And low to high, Shootout went as expected. I honestly thought that Panasonic would have done even better. I mean, not to say they didn't do bad, right? So let's go over the results really quick because I think it's kind of cool, regardless. And they were double, no, it was not double blind. It was a blind. It was a blind judging, meaning that they covered up all of the branding. And Vincent did a pretty good job. Right? If you haven't caught it, it's on HDTVTEST, Vincent's channel. And he did a great job, I think, having the judges walk out. So the person changing all the cycling through all the content, they did what they had to do to make sure that you didn't know which TV was which. So jumping into it, we knew that the A90J would lose in black level and shadow detail. I think the reviews in Europe kind of bore this out. The complaint when I was at the Valley Electronics Shootout was the A90J near black. It had a little bit of crushing that, well, we couldn't fix at all. So we knew that would be its weakness. Nevertheless, it was pretty close. So it's interesting, though, the complaint from Vincent was that maybe it was slightly lifted, and our complaint was it was slightly crushed. So maybe it evens out, and the A90J is actually better than we thought. So yeah, that's near black. But my near black, I thought was kind of crushed when we were at the shootout. So I thought that was interesting. Either way, JZ2000 killed it for near black shadow detail. And not like it matters to a lot of people. If you guys watch Vincent's video, you'll see what kind of content you need to really distinguish. And in that content, if it ends up crushing a little bit or raised a little bit, it may not make a difference either way without a mastering monitor. And that's very important. The only reason these judges were able to say, oh, look how lifted it is or crushed, because the mastering monitor is there. But all of these TVs are probably good enough that without the mastering monitor, you wouldn't know the creator's intent intended it to be either true black or near black slightly lifted, unless it's obnoxiously annoying, which probably isn't the case with these TVs. So, but still, all these TVs are great. We're talking about the finest scoring detail on this. Now, this one I really enjoyed because the Samsung scored as high as I thought it should have scored at the New York City Valley Electronics Shootout. I thought the Samsung HDR Impact was tops on my list. And here again, it was tops, right? So JZ2000 won in tone mapping HDR. So JZ2000 did the best of the compromise, giving you the brightest brights while maintaining all the color detail. The A90J got a little bit brighter, thus the HDR impact. A90J beat the JZ2000, which that brightness, right? But it lost some of that color detail, which we know happens when you get too bright in OLED. And the JZ2000 was able to preserve that color, but beating both of them is the Samsung QN95A. In the US, the QN90A, it got brighter in all the right spots. And as I've said, in those scenes where the brightness is transient, you're not going to pause or stop to look at the color detail. The impact is there. So essentially, in my opinion, the Samsung definitely won this. And here, Vincent recognizes Samsung for having the most HDR impact, which is exactly what I thought in New York City. So I'm definitely in agreement with Vincent on this because he separated impact from creator's intent. So the question for all of you is, when you're watching HDR, are you wanting creator's intent, or is the creator's intent the HDR impact and not necessarily the actual color detail? And the color detail happens to be, well, it happens to be there because you got to have color, but maybe the creator intended for you to be like, wow, I'm blinded by the light, right? So that's something that's, I think, is still up for debate. Oh, hey, so not raised blacks, two different things. Uh, so it's a little bit brighter. So maybe it's subject to interpretation. Tell me, a review for the two, when he said that the A90J was a little bit brighter, does he mean the near blacks is a little bit bright, or is it lifted near blacks? What are your thoughts? Because I know that near blacks is crushed on the A90J, not raised for sure. But what does that mean? Because in that scoring, we're scoring black levels and shadow detail. So brightness should not be relevant at all. What do you think Vincent means when he says that then? Because I know near black, the A90J actually is crushing, not lifted at all. So I don't know. I don't know. So here we go. It's newer blacks and specific lumens scene can be slightly brighter. And yet in similar scenes, it could be darker. I guess it depends on the scene, because I know in The Kingsman, there were lots of scenes where it was darker than the mastering TV and darker than the G1. The G1 did a better job in those scenes. So maybe it's actually content specific as well. Hard to say, hard to say. Yep, I'm a little surprised at how well Samsung did down the list. So here, I expected Samsung to do well, and it did. But let's go down a little bit further and talk about that. Color accuracy. I thought the JZ2000 would be a little bit better than the A90J, only based on preliminary reviews from other channels, right? But apparently they're tied. So there you have it. Color accuracy on both the JZ2000 and A90J is spot on. And this also includes what I thought was really cool. What Vincent did was out of the box accuracy, not just calibrated. He also wanted to see out of the box accuracy. And we know the A90J knocks it out with out of the box, and the JZ2000 as well. And that may have been the difference separating them. What I was surprised is that the G1 did not do as well as the Philips 936. So this is definitely something that Philips should be proud of. It's understandable that Philips couldn't beat the A90J or the JZ2000, as both are professional displays intended for professionals, maybe, but it beat out the G1. And I think LG has been doing this a long time. So this is a pleasant surprise. And yeah, hey, just reach out to my about, or reach out to me on Twitter for more reviews. So here we are, color accuracy, and A90J, JZ2000, spot on. But as we know, once everything is calibrated without the mastering monitor. Without the reference monitor, you're going to have a hard time. Other than the Samsung, I think Samsung has that teal touch that everyone can see from a mile away. So maybe the Samsung you could tell, but I think the G1, JZ2000, A90J, and Philips will all look very similar. Motion. Okay, so A90J, no one is surprised how well it did. The surprise is probably how well the Samsung did relative to the competition. It beat out the LG, which I thought it would be tied. I didn't think the Samsung motion processing would beat out the other two, but I knew it was good. And I knew that I liked how Samsung dealt with soap opera specifically. The stuttering, yeah, I still think the A90J is better than the F1. Hey, Brandon.
What's going on, man?
And hey, we're just going over some of the results and stuff, having fun talking to everyone.
Cool. What's up, everyone? What's up? What's up?
And what's up, everyone? How are you doing, man? Are you limping back home? Did you walk home, ride a bike? Did your wife pull you on one of those?
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, we had my son had football, so I was trying to get back. We live against the grain in traffic now, so traffic back after school is kind of a pain in the butt. But you know, we do what we got to do. Now we have a bigger house, and that's the goal.
Oh yeah, true. And Review for the Tube has a good comment. Samsung has great motion. It isn't talked about enough. So let me talk about Samsung's motion. This year, I thought it had excellent motion. And many of you know I prefer a touch of soap opera over no soap opera at all. Classy is the opposite. He cannot stand soap opera. He'd rather have stutter. For those of you like me, the Samsung is amazing because it allows you to fine tune that soap opera so that there's just a touch of it. And I'm fine with that. And that's why for classy, Sony is it, right? Everything else is like, there's too much soap. But I definitely like how Samsung handles their motion processing if you're okay with a touch of that soap for sure. I've never liked LG's processing. I either preferred Sony or Samsung, but many people like LG because it errs on the other side. It would give you that touch of stutter more so than soap opera if you're okay with a little bit of stutter. So yeah, here's another word for Samsung motion. Brandon, what are your thoughts? Or I don't know if it'll make a difference to you. You never mentioned whether you liked motion on any of these TVs. Has it ever been an issue for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I feel like is you can pretty much get any TV to where I like it. So I mean, no, there's definitely some issues with some, but I think the Samsung has great. I mean, it has great motion. When I put it up against like the A90J, I was like, wow, I was actually pretty impressed with how fluid it could be. And I think some of that, like, you know, the slower response time sometimes can help a little. I feel like it might, like having just the slower response time in itself gives it a little bit of fluid motion where the stutter isn't there, but I definitely like I like a little bit of soap opera effect for sure. One or two on Sony's, keep it on the threes or so for those. But yeah, I think they all look pretty good.
And thank you for the reminder. So Review wants me to go over the winning categories with you that you missed. And you didn't miss too much, but I think you missed some of the big ones. So here we go. Black levels and shadow details. So the JZ2000 A90J. So I may have misinterpreted as lifted blacks. It's more of near black. It's a little bit too bright. And that's the A90J, but I didn't observe that when I saw it head to head with the G1. I thought it was closer to crushing, but the JZ2000 killed all competition in black level and shadow detail. And I was telling everyone that unless you have the mastering monitor there, though, and you were there, it's almost impossible to distinguish how well they did without the mastering monitor because they all looked really great near black. Or were you able to tell the difference when you were there at the shootout?
No, I think they were all very similar. It was hard to tell some of those differences.
Yeah.
I thought that the A90J looked fine. I know that they were messing around with it a little bit, but then I thought they set it back to where it was, and they kind of just left it. But
here's one that I was pleasantly surprised. So HDR tone mapping and HDR impact. Remember we talked about this in the New York City Valley Electronics Shootout. There was no HDR impact as a category. It was really all HDR tone mapping. And I thought the Samsung Q98 should have won the HDR impact. Well, it won it here. So it sounds like Vincent may be inspired by our comments, but JZ2000 obviously won the tone mapping. And it meant that it got super bright while maintaining color. And if it got any brighter, like the Samsung, it would have lost some color. But along all the TVs, it had the most color within its brightness range. But the Samsung got even brighter, losing a little bit of color. But that impact, I think, was so significant. Personally, I'm willing to lose a little bit of color in those scenes. And the A90J, among all the OLEDs, won an HDR impact. So it beat the JZ2000 if you're focused on brightness. But for you, as a consumer, Brandon, what is your preference?
I'm just on tone mapping, or what do you mean?
Uh, Impact, HDR impact. You want it bright, but lose a little bit of color, or you
Yeah.
want that absolute color, but not as bright, like the
No, I'm
JZ2000.
more of the brightness. Like I just, if you can give me a little shinier object, a little lack of color doesn't hurt me. So I'm just more of a consumer in that end. I do look, and I try to look for these differences, and I just think in general, if the JZ2000 is better than the A90J, then wow, that's awesome. Like, because that's such a good TV. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
it
And
is.
I saw one comment in here. Well, go ahead. We'll do this comment first.
Okay, yeah, just real quick. So
No,
this
it's all
was
good.
going into what we were saying. I guess Sony firmware update recently addressed the near black issue, so they fixed it now. So hey, maybe this is why they didn't have the black crushing, and now it's just brighter. So there you go. There you go. Firmware updates, man. TVs today are so different than TVs just 4 months ago. So you were saying, what comment did you want to address,
Well,
Brandon?
I mean, there was someone saying that the shootout was better because the judges couldn't tell the bias. And I think we talked about it before. Like, that may be the case, but I would imagine that if any of the judges knew TVs well enough that you
Mm-hmm.
could just see on menus when they're going from one screen to another, you can see what TV it is. It's not
Oh,
hard for
I,
us.
I forgot to tell you about the menu. So what Vincent did to address that, he had the judges walk out of the room, and then there was a person there in charge of cycling the different content to make sure the menus didn't reappear at any time. So the
Cool.
judges were unable to see the menu. However, calibrators like Vincent, after a couple of patterns or scenes, they're like, okay, I know which one is which. Like we know the QN98 has this little blue touch or whatever, right? After a couple of scenes, they kind of got an idea of what was what. But the other judges who were not calibrators were unable to distinguish just by
Cool.
looking at the TVs.
Yeah.
So that's something that he addressed, which is kind of cool, but I don't know how important that is, though. I mean,
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
I don't think sided bias is an issue only because all these TVs are so awesome. They're all expensive. And I don't know. Do you have a brand loyalty? Because you and I, we have no brand loyalty. So just so you guys know, right? We we could care
Yeah, I mean,
less
I never
what
even had a
TV people
Sony
love.
TV until this year. I think just this year I've been like, okay, well, I don't really game, so I just felt like the processing of the Sony TVs were just slightly better than the LGs. But I have LG OLEDs too. But no, and the judges that were at the one for Valley Electronics, they had no preference. I mean, they were all like nobody.
None.
I was there the whole time. Not one person was talking about how they like this TV or that TV. Like completely, people were just looking at the TV. So, and I think some of them don't necessarily know the different menus, but like I mean, I could tell, so if you did have it, you could definitely tell, but I think it was pretty fair, and you can't hate on them for having it completely blind. That's great. It is
Right.
good,
Right.
but so I think there's a lot of integrity either way.
So here's a question for you. And this is a great comment, Explorer. Thank you. Because we love TV so much, but then every TV sounds great. Hi again. Don't get me wrong. You're doing a great job. But trust me, the more we watch you, the more we get confused. So the FOMO hasn't stopped. There's actually more FOMO. We just want to buy a TV and enjoy it, period. So Explorer, here's something for you. When we talk about flagship TVs, whether it's the G1, the A90J, the A80J, the X95J, if you get any of those TVs short of the dirty screen effect where you have vertical banding that's just ugly and has nothing to do with the image processing and everything to do with the panel lottery. So let's take out the panel lottery. It's better than what TV you have now. The only exception is if you have an OLED, then you better get something bigger because you're going to say, wait a minute, it just looks like what I had before. So you're absolutely right. At a certain price point, it always comes down to use case. The hard part is to increase that jump going from a $1,000 TV to a $2,000 are you getting your money's worth going to 2000? I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. But honestly, if you walked out of here with a Sony X90J and your last TV was 8 years old, you'd be thrilled. There's no doubt about it. So hopefully that
Yeah,
sets your
and is with
expectations.
regards to the questions. I mean, if you have a specific question, ask us. I mean, I feel like if there's one thing that I feel like I do is not flip flop. So if you want my opinion on something, I'll give it to you and I'll tell you exactly what I would choose from any combination of TVs you want to talk about. So if you're confused
Absolutely.
on one TV or another, ask which TV you would buy, one A or B, and we'll tell you.
Yep, yep. And this is, to me, HDR content is so fun for testing because every TV does their own tone mapping. Dolby Vision is its own thing. We're talking HDR10 tone mapping. And I really think with Sony and Panasonic and probably Philips constantly fiddling with their firmware, it's going to continue to improve on all fronts. So maybe next year's winner might be different because someone did a better firmware update than another. But I'm glad to see that everyone's idea of what HDR impact is slightly different as well. Because, no matter what TV you get, I think it's great. Color accuracy. You don't, I know you don't calibrate your TVs. So here's the question for you, Brandon. Have you ever pulled a TV out of the box and go, whoa, that needs calibration? Or were they all pretty acceptable? Just a couple of fiddling with the color tones and whatever. Did you ever get it acceptable where you didn't have to ever call out for a calibrator?
Well, no, I mean, I think that it's important to give out of the box information I like to compare TVs out of the box because a lot of people are not going to calibrate them. A lot of people, most people. So I think that there's value to having your TV calibrated. And I think there's value to give your perspective on a TV when it's not calibrated, because that's just the way people will get them.
Agreed.
I have had a Hisense. The H9G was wacky. It was not accurate. And I also had the G1 this year was pretty inaccurate as well. It was very green tinted, and Ninjishin came over and kind of pulled that out. So, but I think it's good to kind of see things both ways.
And well, the test kind of bore that out. That's why I think the LG G1, well, so the LG G1 had different approaches. One, it did its own tone mapping that was not too accurate, but also there was no mention of how their out of the box color accuracy was. They said they would looked at it. It's part of the scoring. But I was curious. I know the A90J out of the box is supposed to be good, and I've heard the JZ2000 out of the box is very good from AV Forums. They did a test on the JZ1500, right? And so I'm thinking that the G1, we've regularly heard that out of the box it requires help. So I'm wondering if that was mentioned. I didn't hear it in the review, but is this something that other of you have observed? That it needs some help, and maybe that's why they didn't make it into the top three. Hey, Bikio-matic, a response to your question. The QN95A 65-inch is a great room all-arounder. Now, whether or not the 2,200 pounds or euros is a good deal, if you have the budget, get it. It is a very good TV. For a non-OLED TV, I can't think of anything better because at the 65-inch size, the Sony X95J does not have anti-glare. It's good, but the 95A is better because of that anti-glare, in my opinion. All right, let's go down. Motion.
There's two funny things, and there's two comments in here that are.
Yeah, you see it?
No, what I'm saying is there's two comments in here. People are talking about this, and this is great. I'm glad people are talking about this.
What is it?
Right here. I like that LG. I feel like LG needs to be called out for their out of the box accuracy. And on the other end, we got someone saying that I'm glad that they did gaming because Value Electronics didn't really do gaming. So it's like, yeah, so there's gaming and color accuracy. So, I like that they did gaming. That's cool. It would be something that, would be neat to have at Value Electronics. I feel like the crowd that we had at Value Electronics weren't super into the gaming side of it. And that was just more about like, the general population.
So to be fair to the gaming, just reviewing gaming in general. So what Vincent said about gaming is very important. There's no such thing as a 4-way or a 5-way or even a 2-way splitter that can fairly do gaming, mostly because if VRR is even important at all, you can't do VRR and split it, right? Each TV has their own VRR algorithm that needs to talk to the source. So you can't do VRR on a splitter, number one. And then it goes to latency. And I still, it's not that I don't like reviewing gaming. I don't know how technically feasible to get a good gaming comparison head to head is, because believe me, I scour the internet for a good splitter because I would like to do head to head gaming reviews. Motion is the most important part of gaming. So I think what we end up with is, how does the color look on gaming and at 4K 60? Because 4K 120 gaming, the color does change a little bit, and you have to recalibrate the HDR. 4K 120 HDR. When you switch to 4K 120, everything changes on the Samsung, and then you have to spend time recalibrating the HDR tone mapping off of either the Series X or the PS5. So I agree, we need to find a way to do gaming, and Robert has tasked me with helping him with that. So I will look into that. We will have gaming as part of the review in the next Value Electronics Shootout. I'll work with Classy as well, because it comes down to what's the best way to do it quickly. Because you have these people, they're here all day, and the last thing I want to do is look at gaming at the end of the day and wait 15 minutes for us to reset the settings for gaming. So it's something that we'll think about. But yeah, it's really hard to do gaming comparisons head to head in real time, especially. So, but it's a good point, though. Okay, let's see here. Let's go down. Oh, motion. I think this is when you jumped in, right? We talked about motion. I like Samsung's motion. I like Sony's motion. I have never been impressed with LG's motion. Classy, what are your thoughts about motion on the LG? Do you have any position either way? Because I know you have the LG and you love the LG for gaming, but how's its motion for movie watching compared to the other two? Okay.
I'm just going to add this onto my thing real quick. See if we can get some more, have some.
All right,
Hey, if
yeah.
you guys throw out a, hit the like button real quick if you can. It'll be really helpful. I know a few people have, but most people haven't. So
there
if
you
you can
go.
just hit the
Please
like button
click
real
live,
quick.
my friends. Absolutely. Well, here's the one that I thought that Panasonic would win for sure. The JZ2000, best cinema TV over the A90J, and mostly it's probably the wins in the black shadow or black level shadow detail, which we know it does very well. And the color accuracy, it tied the Sony, but then in HDR tone mapping, it did better than the Sony. So I think that was the clincher. But they were so close that I think either TV would be fine for anyone. It's one of those things where it's like Sony barely beat the G1 in New York City. It was such a close score that it's technically either one, both calibrated, it'll be indistinguishable. And in this case, unlike the LG, out of the box, both of these TVs will look phenomenal. So the G1, you had to have it calibrated to get it to look as good as the A90J, but against the Panasonic, not so much. So that'd be great.
What was the 22.5, the 22.42? Was that the overall scores?
Well, they have 3 overall scores. So they have the best cinema TV, they have the best living room TV. In my opinion, I think the QN95A slash QN90A could end up being the better one because it has anti-glare where the A90J does not. So if you have glare in your room, I think the QN90A or the 95A would do a better job with the anti-glare than the OLED from Sony. Now the LG G1 does have a little bit of anti-glare coating, so I don't know if they did a good anti-glare test at the shootout at all, or because it's hard to do glare, honestly. You have to have lights in certain positions, and it may be too time consuming, but I would suspect that if glare is a problem in your room, the Q95A or Q90A may end up being the best living room TV. And this is actually pretty good. I'm very proud of Samsung for doing this, for scoring as high as it did. Are you surprised by the
Well, no, I
Samsung
mean,
being the
I think the
best
Samsung's a
or
great
second?
TV. I think it's a great TV. I just think that the problem is that you can't always get a clean panel, and there's some downsides to that. In addition to some of the blooming and some pressing the highlights. So it wasn't just about, like, for me, exactly how it performs in certain manners. It's just like what are people going to use the TV for overall? And if it's like, if you have a bright room, or you really want like a super bright TV, it's a great TV.
Yeah.
But if you want it to look really good and you can control the lighting in your house And then you're talking about like then the speakers look really, the speakers are great on the A90J, and there's all kinds of things for me that go into it. But when I did do the QN90A, and I just had some bad luck with some of the other features, and that's what it was. And I see that people want me to give it another shot in the comments. I mean, I do. I just, time is, it's always hard.
Time is, yeah. And now with your sprained ankle, it makes it even worse.
Well,
Hey,
now I have more time.
so this is the scoring on the best cinema TV, and yeah, this is very close, right? Essentially, I think it's a tie too, but again, a win is a win, and actually, this is a win for Sony because it's so close. I thought that Panasonic would be a little bit farther ahead, so there you have it. Now, best TV overall. So the A90J won it, and what
Really
pulled it ahead was the I think is the HDR impact, and they fixed the near black issues of last year, or the crushing issues that we may have seen a few months ago. Those two elements brought it ahead of the JZ2000 overall, I think. But this is where, if you can get either TV, man, and the JZ2, or forget the 2000, the 1500, the JZ1500 doesn't have the amazing stereo system. You're getting that image quality for so much less than the A90J. So I think the JZ1500 ends up being the winner here, because I could see a lot of people in Europe just getting this JZ1500 and getting 99.9% the A90J for so much less, right? So how many of you guys in Europe are getting the JZ1500 because of the shootout?
I would love to get one of those two TVs. It's like, it's like Vincent and said, getting them going the other way. It's like, it's twice the price. Plus right now, if we tried to get it, it would be sitting off the shore of like Long Beach. We'd never get it,
Or it'll be sitting off the shore in Australia. Hey, Zach, Hisense models the same in Australia as USA. Actually, no, you guys get better models. You have the U9 mini LED. We don't even get that. So that is their best TV out this year. The dual cell you have, you are not impressed, but you have the mini LED. Let me know how that TV is. I wish I had it here to compare, but we don't. That's supposed to be their best TV globally. So yeah, you guys got to win there with the Hisense mini LED TV. Here's a good question. I'm a little on the fence about including TVs not readily available. Same thing with the dual cell. What are your thoughts on testing TVs not everyone can get? Well, this is the TV maker's fault because they're not releasing all TVs to all regions in the same way. Panasonic and Philips do not even sell TVs in the USA. Not the good stuff, right? They have their rebranded Hisense or whatever here in the USA. So that doesn't count. So it's hard to fault them kind of, because what can you do? And the Panasonic and the Philips is so good that having it in Europe is important for those consumers. So they're very region specific. Now, in the USA, we would love to bring over the Panasonic or the Philips, but then it's kind of unfair to include them if you guys can't buy them. So I agree, including only TVs that you could buy regionally, but globally, I don't think it's that big of a deal. What are your thoughts about that, Brandon? Including TVs that not everyone can get?
I don't know. I mean, I just try to review the TV we can get,
That's all you can do, right?
I try to review the TVs I can get, and I hope that everyone else can eventually get them. But I mean, it's like you get some random asks for like specific models that we don't have here, and then I go online for like individuals, and I try to look up the specs, and I'm like, okay, that kind of looks like this. I think it's this one, and then I'm like, I do my best, but it is what it is.
You know what I should have included that I forgot to include? The reason the A90J beat the JZ2000, the big one, I also think, is its processing of lower bitrate content is better than Panasonic. It is better than any TV out there. The second place TV was the Samsung. So that tells you how far ahead the XR processor is, reality creation, whatever you want to call it. Their processing and their settings for lesser bitrate content, whether it's lower resolution or more compressed, the A90J kills it. And for most people who use multiple sources that may not all be perfect, that ends up pushing the Sony ahead. But if you have perfect sources, perfect 4K HDR on a Blu-ray in a perfect room environment, the JZ2000 is it. But for most people, the A90J ends up winning because of that. And I really like that because when we recommend TVs, we try to keep that in mind and remind ourselves, wait a minute, not everyone sits in a pitch black room with perfect content, right? Okay,
For
this
sure.
this is a great price. Finally, X95J is starting to hit more competitive pricing, not at the 85-inch yet. I think it has a ways to go, and the 65-inch needs to drop a little bit more. But 75-inch 2300, I can recommend that price. I think that's a great price. And it's less expensive than the QN90A, and that makes sense to me too. Yeah, Classy is not happy with how Sony is handling Dolby Vision on Netflix for sure. Now, I don't know about Blu-ray discs. I think Sony's Dolby Vision Blu-ray is fine. I don't think that's what he's talking about. It's the way Sony's handling on Netflix. Hey, is there anything else they're doing badly with Dolby Vision besides Netflix? I thought it was only Netflix you're unhappy with. Let's see.
What is going on? I'm trying to get my.
Okay,
All right.
Gravy Biscuits.
Gravy biscuits. That sounds funny.
I've narrowed it down to the LG C1, G1, and the Sony X95J. Wow, what a contrast. But part of me is starting to want and wait to see what the QD OLEDs bring in 2022. So just so you know, I'm going to put out this video shortly, but the QD OLED is going to cost at least 3 times more than the equivalent QN90A. So if the QN90A, let's say 55-inch is 1400, 1300, well, you're looking at what, over 4,000 street prices. MSRP, it started off at close to 2,000, so now you're at 6,000 plus new technology, first adopter. So the QD OLED at the 55-inch should be between 6,000 and 7,000 at the 55-inch when it launches. That's nowhere even close to the LG C1, G1, and Sony. Now you're a first adopter feeling cool at a 55-inch, but I think 55-inch is really small. I don't think it's worthwhile to try. Well, for me it is as a reviewer, but as a consumer, I don't know what you would do with this TV at 6 to 7,000. Gravy Biscuits, tell me, would you consider a QD OLED at $5 to $7,000 for a 55-inch size? Because you can get an 83-inch LG C1 for that much, obviously, and a soundbar. Hey, Tempo, didn't you see the shootout? The QN90A didn't do well. Maybe it did do badly. It didn't win the DSC part, right? The uniformity, it lost. The uniformity was won by the A90J and the Panasonic. And okay, so OLEDs in general will always have better DSC generally, but I don't know. Did Q90A do that badly? We didn't get the final scoring, so we don't know how badly Samsung did. But you're right, Tempo. There's nothing worse than dirty screen effect to ruin your perfect image quality, right?
Man, I tell you, I have YouTube TV, and YouTube TV is bringing out the worst in my A90Js.
Really?
I told you,
what's happening?
Because YouTube TV and YouTube in general just have that like gray screen that just it's like a uniformity test almost. Like, so you basically get like kind of a subpar image of a gray screen, and I don't think it's very clean itself. And then it kind of brings out a little bit of banding. And then on top of that, you also get just poor quality. It's like some of the content is like 480, some of it's 720, and rarely you even get 1080. And so I'm just like, gugh. After having the Spectrum app, it's crazy to get this. Like, I'm watching ESPN in like 480 content. Can you believe that?
Okay, so
beautiful. It's terrible.
So is it uniquely terrible to the Sony or any TV?
It's any TV. But
any
it's just
TV.
like,
okay, I was going to say.
I'm used to watching the Spectrum 4K app on it with my, and I also have an Apple TV with awesome HDR and everything else. And then I click on the YouTube TV app, and I'm like, barf. It's like I'm watching these movies. Like, you'll watch an old movie, and it's because it's not just the TV. The YouTube TV is hacking apart, how good it looks. So I'm watching it on like a quarter of the resolution that I used to be watching it on, or worse.
See, that's obvious. Yeah. So here's a real man's comment that I agree with. By the way, I had the JZ2000 great picture, but went back to the A90J as I prefer brightness on the Sony, and this goes back to the HDR impact. I think HDR impact requires strong luminance, and Sony is willing to push it, although inaccurate, accurate enough that's not annoying, but then bright enough that it makes it quote unquote impactful. I think that's the purpose of HDR. So I think Sony did the right thing with this XR chip.
Look, this guy
Oh
gave
my
a
god.
$5 super chat. How
All
nice.
right, now we could wait in Orange County. That just gets us a coffee, no tip, just a
we
coffee.
got a super like and subscribe, and then super chat so you can buy so we can buy
buy
FOMO
me lunch
lunch.
because
FOMO
I'm
needs
hungry,
lunch.
right?
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm eating my crackers and my sausage here. I'm sorry, I feel bad, but I haven't eaten anything all
oh,
day.
dude, I haven't eaten anything either. Hey, Classy, you know what? Why don't you think of a way to run a test between 4 or 5 TVs next year that is not time consuming? So imagine how we're going to do this, right? Whatever you come up with, tell me, and then we'll do it. The hardest part is doing this while respecting the judge's time. So remember, we are part of the community at Value Electronics. We can make gaming testing a part of the best living room TV scoring. So let me
What
know.
about just an open discussion for gaming, where
Mm-hmm.
then the open discussion leads to scoring in a way where it doesn't have to necessarily be displayed, but you have a discussion about what features are working and what they aren't based on, AV forums and things like that. Is there some way you
Yes.
can bring like a report to the shootout, and here are the things, and then let the judges determine what the scoring would be based off of those things?
That could be kind of like a good panel discussion, actually, because
Yeah.
you know how we have that lunch
Yeah,
break?
that's
I
what I
think
mean.
that
Yeah.
would be a great lunch break because it's very subjective because some people value 4K 60 image quality. That's good enough for them. Because what's the point of
That's
crappy 4K
me.
60, right? To
I'm
get
4K
great
60 all
4K
day.
4K
Yeah.
120 VRR works great, but it looks so. But you're not a competitive gamer, so what do you care?
No, nope. We're playing like Wobbly Life and I Am Fish and all these stupid games that they don't even need 4K, let alone 4K 120.
LG made something here. Let me find it. LG, LG, you know what? LG did not make second
Uh,
place in anything that I have. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong. Did LG make the cut anywhere in a top two? Not to. Oh, gaming. It won gaming. Duh. So LG, hands down, was the
and
best
then
gaming TV at
it
the
had to be
shootout.
QN, then the QN95, right?
Yes, then
Afterwards.
the QN95, and we know
The
we've
Samsung's
all
no
said the same
joke.
thing.
It's a
Yeah,
great, yeah, those are the two best TVs. I mean, the
and we've
LG
always
and
mentioned for
Samsung.
all of you, if you guys want working VRR on a TV that looks decent, start with the OLED C1G1 and then go down to the QN90A in the USA, 95A outside the US. And after that, it's a crapshoot.
Oh yeah, review for YouTube. Game mode picture quality matters. I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, you could show some game mode picture quality,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could talk about the other features, because what he's saying is you can't sit there and test all day long the features and what's working. It's just not
Yeah,
enough time. I mean, the
right.
shootout took us all of a day just without gaming in there. So you'd have to like minimize it somehow.
We would definitely have to put a kind of like a gaming loop from a gaming source as well. So we have to decide whether it changes anything. Does it have to be a gaming source, or could it be a gaming loop and you put the TV in game mode, but then it has to recognize HGIG versus non HDIG, because Sony doesn't have HGIG, it just has its own game tone mapping model mode. So that's something that we'll have to continue to thinking about. So this is going to be interesting for sure.
Ooh.
Okay, so at CES, we're going to get the quote unquote launch. But remember, just because they're launching at CES does not mean it's released for sale. Let's see, I can list 2 TVs that launched at CES that never appeared. The QD0 launched this year. Haven't seen it from TCL. And Samsung launched the micro LED 99-inch, 110-inch. I mean, you name it, it was launched. Guess what? No micro LED TV. I suspect that Samsung does want this TV out there ASAP. So my guess would be maybe in the fall is when the QD OLED will be out. And Sony is going to have to take its time because its processing has to be completely revamped for Quantum Dot, because Quantum Dot has a much wider gamut. It's a completely different color mapping system they're going to have to go through, because now they have to relearn, well, how the heck do we calibrate our algorithm to this larger gamut that's significantly wider than what we had before. So Sony and Samsung is going to spend a lot of time working on the image processing side, and it'll be done when it's done, because Sony takes this very seriously. So we'll see. I expect Sony maybe next year, but Samsung, they're going to do whatever they can to get it out, and that means first adopters on a Samsung are going to get some inaccurate colors out of the box. I can tell you that. All right.
What's everyone doing for the holidays? Did you tell them we're going to be doing some live streams
Oh
for
yeah,
Black Friday?
Hey guys, Black Friday, we will be. I'll get to your question, Explorer 2020, but I forgot. Yes, if you guys are free on Black Friday, you guys are shopping, whatever you want to do, we are going to have a Black Friday live streaming special in the morning, whatever. We'll hop in and out, and we'll make sure we'll talk about it, because there are a lot of last minute deals that we don't expect on Black Friday that normally happens. So, yeah, Black Friday and maybe the weekend, and who knows, right?
Yeah.
So if things are
Make sure
happening,
you're
it's exciting.
subscribed to this channel too,
yeah.
because some of the people, I think you guys catch our notifications from our other pages, but this is the channel for streaming primarily. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to this channel and hit the like button and all that good stuff. But I think we may even try to do some on FOMO's channel, some on my channel. There's a lot of time, but we just want to make sure people that are buying TVs can
get the information they want.
Get the info.
Absolutely.
So if you catch this live stream later, even make sure to subscribe to the Pass the Remote here, and we'll make sure to try to put on the community pages so you guys don't miss it.
Hey JS, so I got your question. Exchange C1 77-inch because of the HDR handshake issue with the HDCP not running 4K HDR. The question is, return it and go with the Sony A80J or wait for the software update. My only question to you is, if you got the C1 for gaming features and you're actually using those gaming features, going to the A80J is losing the features you're using. So if you got the 77-inch because it's a good deal, image quality, movie streaming, then the A80J will get you there and more. I'd go with the A80J, but if it's for gaming features, you're not getting a fair exchange going with the A80J because you're not getting those features. You don't have VRR yet. So let us know
what
you're using it
happened with
for.
that. What's going on with the HDR thing? Can you explain it to me? Because I hadn't been keeping up.
HDCP is how they prevent piracy. So when you plug in your Blu-ray player, it says this TV, basically, you can't watch anything on this TV because it doesn't have the anti-piracy handshake.
On just the LGs right now?
Yes, the LG C series that was produced after September. Their chip is missing the HDCP authorization to allow you to watch anything in 4K because it thinks you have a pirated hardware.
How on earth can that ever happen?
That's what everyone is saying. And
like, honestly, that sounds
the rumor
weird. It doesn't sound like LG because they seem like they're normally on it.
Okay, so we know chip shortage, and you know how you try to substitute chips? If they substituted the wrong chip, this is what happens. Oof. And I'm speculating. I don't know if they did. But I can tell you right now that BMWs are coming without full screen displays anymore because there is none. Teslas are coming out without USB ports, without chips. So a lot of features are missing, but they're still selling the cars. Yep. And they're telling you
we're thinking about we're thinking about getting the Y, so I better check into that before I get it.
I'm getting so I just reserved my Y. It's not coming until June. So you're
what'd you get? I thought they were coming in January.
Are you kidding? No. So if you're getting the regular long range and you happen to have the color upgrade, it comes in June. If you're getting the fully super expensive performance edition with all the bells and whistles, that's coming in January because that's the most expensive model. Is that what you're getting? That's why. But if you're getting the standard,
we're not going to get. I was told not to get the auto drive feature from our sales rep because they all have the auto drive feature. This is like the one that's in like the city. I don't see myself not watching the road anyways. Like I'm watching the road.
Right.
But have you driven the one with the performance?
No.
Oh my God. We drove that 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, dude.
Wait, is that why you're getting it?
It shoots you out of a cannon, dude. I've had 3 BMWs. The fastest one went 0 to 60 in 4.5. This thing made my BMW look stupid. I mean, it is so fast.
The number one reason I'm not getting it is my greatest fear is my kids will drive it.
Yeah,
You
my
know,
kids
we
are too
have
young
kids,
yet.
they're going to be driving age.
Yeah,
And, you know, in 5 years or 8 years
yeah.
when they're old enough, you can still have this car because this will last
We
forever.
might lease
No.
it though. We might lease it. We might
Oh,
lease it.
okay. Well, then you'll have 2.0 by the time they get.
Flexing their YouTube money. It's not the YouTube money that's buying it. We have businesses and stuff that we do, but hey, we're FOMO's giving up the minivan.
That's right. I got to give it the minivan.
Hey,
Get
listen,
something.
here's the thing to think about, and I don't care. This is going off track, but listen,
Go.
for us right now, we pay like $500 a month for a RAV4, right? So if I pay $700 or $800 for a Tesla and I save $400 a month on gas, why
Yep.
wouldn't I buy a Tesla? I'm going to
Mhm.
save money because we
Mhm.
pay so much money taking the kids to and from
Yep. I'm with you.
to school, and it's like the Tesla car is amazing, and it's the torque and the power, and it's got dog mode. You can just leave your dog in the car and hit dog mode, and the car just keeps the temperature, and it says, don't worry, the car is in dog mode, so my dog is okay. I mean, like
I
they're
love
pretty
that
cool.
stuff.
They're pretty
No,
cool.
no, just make sure when you have dog mode that they included the temperature sensor because it's missing the chip, right? The
Oh,
chip
there you go.
shortage.
So now we don't have dog mode. Okay, fair enough.
Hey, Temple, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Keep up the good work. Thank you. FOMO and B, of course. Thanks, guys. By the way, I have the Q90R. So do I. 65-inch, some DSC, and 80 A80J77 clean panel, and do enjoy both technologies. Me, you both. My Q90R 65 is in my kids' Zoom, classroom, mixed use, whatever, and they love it. We have windows behind us, shine straight on it, and it works. It reduces it. I love it. I'm a big fan of the Q90R. It's still a great TV. I have no reason to replace it for sure.
And I have the
Ah,
KS8000, and I love that TV. Now,
that's bright
the
as heck, right?
the edge lit, you can now, when I'm used to looking at OLEDs now I see the edge lighting, and I can see around the outside that it's the contrast isn't as good as I had thought it was. But man, that thing is bright. And the anti-reflective coating back then wasn't quite as bad with like how the glare went across, but it was still very good. So yeah, it's a great
Yep.
Samsung TVs. I just wish if you bought a $2,500 TV that it wouldn't have as much dirty screen effect. And
Hey,
that leads
Gregory
us into this
Sullivan.
question.
This is a great comment. I have selected the Q98 as my favorite TV for just regular living room, homes, glare, everything, right? I have consistently selected that TV, and the X95J is right up there as long as you get the 75-inch and 85 with the anti-glare. I agree with you. It is a great TV for most people if that's in your budget. The OLED is good too, but I do find the Q98 more usable in more people's rooms. And we're not talking gaming or anything like that. So I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you can't afford lunch. We got $2 for the Tesla fund. Thanks, Tech.
Thank you, my friend. Every dollar is appreciated.
$1 each, and then take away half of it for YouTube, and then
Right,
so
you keep on forgetting, right?
cents. We're getting there. We're getting there. And
Okay.
also, oh, sorry, bro.
Oh,
My
no,
bad.
go ahead. No,
No,
I was
go
just,
ahead.
let's see, I'll just do a quickie.
No,
How's
you're good.
Samsung
You're
marketing?
good.
Go to explain the QLED is not as good as OLED. Okay, so remember, it is not QD OLED. That's what we're calling it. That's what the press is calling it. It's QD display because the focus is on the QD. OLED happens to be the transition backlighting technology. They're trying to move out of OLED ASAP, whether it goes into micro LED blues or QNED blues, anything. They want to get out of OLED. But right now, OLED blue is what they're using for the QD color converting layer. It's all about that QD color converting layer. And that's what they're going to focus on. You watch. There's going to be no mention of OLED. It's all about the quantum dot color converting layer. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna just hit with this mic. Oh, I'll give this one. Just I wanted to
go
say
that
hi
way.
to Mike. It's okay.
No, go
What's
ahead.
up, My Gadget World in the house? KS8000. High five. He has that masterpiece as well. He's probably got a lot of TVs too, man. He fires through these TVs as fast as any of us. So
Right.
he does a lot of good reviews. So I'm sure he's got a lot of TVs.
I wanted to address this comment. Why don't you stream in 4K or at least HD? What do you think that $2 fund was for?
Yeah, what
So,
do we have to do to get 4K? What is it?
well, that's that upgrade. So we're on StreamYard, and StreamYard doesn't give you 4K. That's not even available. HD is available if we pay them enough, right? And so we're saving up the super chats, and that's going to go into upgrading our StreamYard account to HD. Unfortunately, StreamYard does not go into 4K, but we'll get there. Thank you for your patience, Shlomo. Hopefully that answers your question.
You
All
must be
right.
watching it on like an
Hey, you got a
84-inch
fan
TV.
here. Sounds like a stalker,
What's
man.
up,
Be careful.
stalker? No. I got a lot of good people that are watching the videos. I'm gonna my video that's gonna be very timely this Saturday is gonna be. Well, I was gonna name it "Any Idiot Can Install Their TV," but I figured I'd just say anybody. So I'm gonna teach everyone a basic install just so you guys can get your TVs on the wall. Because obviously, yep. I was just joking about that, but
yeah, I am, because my kids are finally older, so the minivan is not as necessary. My son's in college, whatever, right? And so go, hey, what do I need a minivan for? So finally, I get to get cars a little bit more fun than a minivan. But believe me, I've been doing minivan for how many years now? Geez, since my son was born, that was when I got the minivan. He's now graduated 17. I've had a minivan for 17 years. That's long enough. Please, no mess.
Here, I'll be right back. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, go for it. Good question, Romeo. What can I say about the Costco exclusive U6G for $450? It actually has full array local dimming zones. So if you guys don't know, I got the press release. I looked at it. And it has like 60 dimming zones or something like that. Okay. So we know it can get bright. We know it could do HDR. Honestly, I don't know how it's going to perform. But if the question is whether it will have blooming or not with so few dimming zones, now the Sony X90J has proven it could do it. The question is whether Hisense could do it as well as the X90J with. So it has more dimming zones than the X90J, but is its processing up to snuff? Someone will see. I just have too many TVs, so I won't review it, but maybe Classy will. Can I get you to review this, Classy, and let us know how good the 55-inch U6G is? Yeah, I know, right? Passing down the Costco TV to Classy.
Sorry, the the neighbor kid was screaming. I thought, someone was getting eaten by a mountain lion or something.
X95J all day long, my friend. Hey, Dougs. And the reason is the X95J is so close to Q90A was the Q. Okay, KG and I disagree on how good the Q90T is. He loves the Q90T, and I think it's fine, but I think the X95J is better than Q90T, but falls just short of the Q90A. So I would definitely take the X95J over the Q90T. However, the Q90T is a better gaming TV. So if gaming is important to you, Q90T is a Samsung gaming TV. So I would choose the X95J personally, though. But if the Q90T is a really good deal because it's a last year clearance, go for the good deal. It's close enough that you're not going to beat yourself up getting the less expensive one. 75-inch U7G 1200 bit IPS, X90J 1600, and yes, correct, VA. I would save a little bit of money and go with a $1,600 X90J because the IPS on the U7G is just not. Well, what about the $1,300 75-inch R646 TCL? That's only $100 more, and it's VA, and it's brighter than the X90J. It does require a little bit of work. Classy will tell you go with the X90J. I do love the bright HDR impact of the R646 TCL 6 series, so consider that too. You should put that on your short list as well. That's also a VA panel. All right. Is the LG C1 better than LG C9? Absolutely, for many reasons. But mostly, gaming is better thought out. It has the features that work with gaming, Dolby Vision gaming, assuming that's important to you. However, the C9 does get brighter. So if you want just absolute brightness, the C9 does get brighter, but the C1 is more efficient and it has slightly better color, tone mapping, near blacks. All of that is more sophisticated on the processing of the C1. But they're both good TVs. Many people do love the C9 for its brightness. So if something like brightness, like 100 nits, extra nits is important to you, C9 is great. But overall, the C1 is technically the better TV. It will win a technical shootout over the C9. Please answer this. The HDCP 2.2 issues. I'm looking to buy this. Should I even consider a wait? I would say wait, mostly because we don't know if it's going to be a firmware fix or a hardware fix. If it's a hardware fix, it means that a technician has to come into your home and replace it, and no one wants that. If it's a firmware fix, great. We're waiting for clarification, which it is. If you go on the internet, being as accurate as it is, some people are complaining that it was an actual board that had to be replaced. But again, I don't know. So we'll wait and see for that. I would wait because why not, right? There's no rush. The LG C1 is not going anywhere. It's in stock. Don't worry about it. Just wait. And you'll get it cheaper too. All right. We really have a person who wants to compare cars here. B, what BMWs did you own? I had a 3 Series coupe, a 3 Series sedan at different times. Well, I'll start. I had a 3 Series coupe circa 2000. It was an automatic. I had a stick shift 128. The last naturally aspirated inline six with a manual circa 2016. I had that for a couple of years, and then my kids got older. It didn't fit in the back seat anymore. How about you, B? What BMWs have you owned?
I had a two 335s with the twin turbo straight
Oh,
six,
fast.
and then I went to the Ford when we had the first kid. We went to the four door. I had a 550, which was a beast that had a twin turbo V8, and then I sold that for my truck in 2012, 2013 because I was my work van crapped out, and so it was either buy a new work van or get a truck. And I got a truck, and I've had it since. So I'm keeping that truck until it falls apart, or I might upgrade eventually to like a Ford Lightning or something. We'll have to see.
Right.
A Rivian truck or something. But the wife definitely wants to get that Tesla Y for sure.
It's a good car, man. But you're getting that 3.0 edition, the performance edition. Yeah, that thing's badass. I
Yeah,
like that
the
a lot.
performance, well, because I like the larger rims. I mean, it's
Yeah,
only, I don't know. I don't think it was that much more. I mean, maybe 8 to 10 grand more. But then see, I had priced it with that and the self driving, and I'm like, okay, that's a little much. And then I took the
not
self
worth it.
driving
Yeah.
off, and I'm like, that's doable minus the gas money that you're saving would be less than what we're paying currently for our crappy car.
Hey, Gravy Biscuits, thanks for another great question. How does the G1 differ from the C1? Yeah, we went over this a long time ago, but it's worth reviewing. For gaming, movies, Evil panel difference. So the G1 definitely has the new panel. It has a 5-year warranty, parts against burn-in. So that's why it's more expensive. Number two, it's thinner. It's meant to be mounted on a wall. And most importantly, the G1 arguably could get brighter. Not like you'd notice the difference, but basically that's it. It's more efficient. It gets a 5-year warranty. And the C1 is possibly not an Evo. Maybe it's an Evo. It just depends if you're lucky or not. And well, I don't know, slightly less bright if you're really looking hard. But other than that, I consider them the same TV, with the exception of the 5-year parts replacement warranty on the G1 if you get burn in. But do you remember any huge differences between the two other than the minor brightness difference
Um,
that most people can't tell? Oh,
that's
there you go.
yeah.
There you
But I
go.
mean, and also no picture wise, I found them very similar. I just think that they're completely different. If you're going to buy, if you wall mount it, there you go. If you're not wall mounting it, I think the C1 is better on the stand. And on the stand, the C1 has that deflector plate that kicks the sound out to you. So it sounds a little better, but both of them are a little hollow sounding. So
Mm-hmm.
what's up, Chana? Chana D's in the house, man. Techno
Oh,
Dad. What?
dude,
Twin turbo V8.
how's your bursted Achilles tendon, man?
Oh yeah, man.
That's just brutal, dude.
I wonder what foot he had because he tore his Achilles while I tore my spring ligament in my foot. So we're both gonna be we're gonna be on. I'm gonna have a full on
Wait,
cast for 7
wait.
weeks.
Who has the twin turbo V8? Did you mention a twin turbo V8? Are we
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
M5 here?
No,
M5
I
twin
had
turbo?
a 550. Because the 550 was like 30 grand less than the
Yeah.
M5. So the problem
You,
was is when you're driving about 140 miles an hour, it doesn't have the suspension that the M5 has.
nope.
So it's like wobbly on the highway, but you shouldn't be driving 140
My
anyways.
friend had a stick shift M5 that cost him $1,000 each time he got an oil change. And
Yeah,
I
dude.
mean, every service was between 1,000 and 1,500, and he had to get rid of it.
Well,
It's
see,
like, it's amazing, but it was killing him.
I never paid for any service because I had new car. They were new. So you get up to 5 or 6 years of service. So I never,
That's
but the funny thing is my first 335 actually was the first year that they had the twin turbo straight six, and the turbo went out on it. So because it spent a certain amount of days in service, I actually got it lemoned and I got a brand new car for free. So they actually paid me $8,000 to give me a new car. So I got mileage back. So I got the down payment and then another down payment, and the car was basically replaced for a 2-year newer car. It's pretty cool.
no, you're right. When it comes to European cars, new or lease and then get rid of it, because he made the
Yeah.
mistake of getting it off lease from secondhand. And M5, man, stay away if you're not getting it new. Is
Oh
all I
yeah.
can
Those
say.
are money
Hey,
suck.
why is ratings as of late called wrongtings? What am I
Uh-oh.
missing here?
I don't know.
What's happening? Tell us, Evan. What why are you so unhappy? And who's Caesar? What is IRL referring to?
This guy right here.
Oh, that's Caesar. Oh, you got yourself a
I
pug. How
got
old is he?
I got a little handle right here. He doesn't like
I
it though. I'm
love
just
it.
messing around.
My
Caesar's
daughter
awesome.
wanted a pug.
He stinks though. He needs a bath, man. No,
Can you
Caesar's all right.
imagine with long hair?
He was running around the room. People saw him running in and out of the room back there, so they're looking. Say he looks vicious. I'm getting hair all over me now.
Under 1,000, UAG 5 Series, over 1,000, C1 or A90J. Let's start with under 1,000. The UAG is quite possibly one of the brightest 4K TVs you could buy in 2021. It's super bright. However, it has slight blooming issues, but it's a good HDR TV. It's very impactful in a full field screen. So if you're watching content that takes up the full screen without black bars, it's phenomenal. It will destroy the TCL 5 series. However, the TCL 5 series doesn't get as bright, but doesn't have as much blooming issues because it doesn't have that brightness to bring that out, right? But it's completely two different TVs. The U8G is meant to go against the TCL 6 series. So go 5 series, save some money if you don't really care about that HDR brightness or you don't need it. And over 1,000, I'd take the A90J. If you could afford it, and you know what, you're going to spoil yourself. I have an A90J. Brandon has an A90J. We love it, but we know that a lot of people are looking biggest bang for the buck. The LG C1 is the better bang for the buck.
Or
So,
get the A80J. I think the
oh
A80J would be
yeah,
a good one too.
that's 77-inch especially. Yep.
Absolutely. I have he says it's his left foot. Mine's my left foot as well. So I'm happy my left foot is going to be the one because I can still drive with my right foot. So I'm good. Won't have to have someone else drive
Oh,
for
check
me.
this out. YouTube comparisons, C1, G1. Yeah. Hey, I do YouTube comparisons, but it's really hard. What you would definitely have to do is listen to the reviewers' subjective impressions because they may not be able to capture what they see. And also panel variants. Some C1s could be brighter than G1, and some G1s might be dimmer because you happen to have that variance. But generally, the G1 is supposed to be the better panel, just generally speaking, in both processing and everything. But you might get lucky and get a C1 that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't see much of a difference. I thought they
Yeah,
were
that's
pretty
what
similar.
they
Yeah.
should be, except for the 5-year warranty, right? 85-inch Samsung Q90A 2600, X95J 2800. I'd go with the Q90A for 2600, with the only exception is, as we all say, what is Samsung's quality control like on the 85-inch? Lots of complaints that you're going to have more trouble than it's worth when you get it because you have to swap it out, get a replacement. So if it was me, I would wait for the X95J to drop in price and go with the X95J. More likely, you're going to get a clean panel because at this point, image quality isn't important if you have dirty screen effect, right? But best to go on the forums and get a feel for it. But the complaint is still that Samsung has not fixed their quality control in terms of dirty screen effect, panel lottery at the larger sizes. All right, who's got the happy wife and a happy
I
life?
think that I meant my comment about my wife wants the Tesla.
Oh yeah, I think the Tesla is definitely wife acceptance good because a lot of the muscle cars that we see, it appeals to the guys. The wives are like, I'm not gonna get a Mustang. I
Yeah,
want
no,
something that looks less obvious.
I've had to convince my wife on every like car that we've gotten. The Tesla is all coming from her. Like I have like nothing. She wants the Tesla, and I'm like trying to hold her back. I'm like, man, we got to pay for some other stuff. She's like,
You
I
know
want a
what's funny?
Tesla. Give me a Tesla.
One of the reasons why I had to get rid of the BMW is she's like, every time I drive the damn thing and I accelerate, it makes too much noise in the back. Can you tamp down the noise? I don't want to be like challenging everyone at a red light. I'm like, it's stock. It's stock. What can I do? She's like, ah, because she likes to, she has fun revving the motor because it's a stick, right? And every time she does it, people think that she's challenging them, and they just burn out in the light, right? She goes, ah, I feel so self conscious.
I have a funny story. I just told this story to the Tesla guy at the test drive, and my wife is the only one between her and I that got a ticket in the BMW for speeding because she she was driving the BMW one night when her friend and myself were drinking. So my wife was driving the 335, and I was like egging her on, and there was a car next to us trying to egg her on, and so she just floored it for like a split second, but the wheels squeaked. They like squealed, and
Right.
she got pulled over, and the cop gave her a hard time. He was not happy. He
Oh
gave her a ticket.
man.
He threatened to impound my car, and she's like,
Ah,
dude,
dude.
she was like, I was laughing the whole time. But yeah, so I give her a hard time every time. I say, you're the one that drives it fast, not me.
I,
She
I
knows.
have a similar story I have to share with you after this super chat. Hey, thanks, Tate 4G. Back with 48-inch questions. I want A9S because accuracy, upscaling, QA. But last year's chip is an X, not XR. Sound is not the Sound Plus, and I think the OS is Droid, not Google. Should I wait? Absolutely. Only because if you can wait, always wait. Things always get better. Now, the A9S is a good TV, but the XR I really like. The question is, at a 48-inch size, how much do you notice the XR? If you're watching high quality 4K HDR content, not as much as if you're watching a slightly lower bit rate because XR does a great job, but it's a 48-inch. If you wait, you might be able to get it even less expensive next year. Why not, right? I always say wait if you can, unless it's a deal that's going to run out and it's amazing. So the story I was going to tell you is I've always told my wife, like, hey, one day I want to get a Porsche 911. She's like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. Why don't we go for a test drive and you can show me why it's so great, right? So we go to the Porsche dealership, and it was a slow day. So we went with my friend, and the guy's like, okay, just drop your insurance card and a credit card, whatever. Here's the keys. It's a slow day. Come back in 30 minutes. I was like, yes, right. So we're on PCH, and she drove it, and she goes, let's see what this thing could do. So she takes a U-turn at like, it felt like 45 miles an hour. I mean, I was like, what are you doing? She's like, well, you tell me it has grip, right? And she's like, spins it over. And my friend almost threw up because she drove like a mad woman all over
That's funny.
Orange County, right? She goes, well, we have it for 30 minutes. We don't have to be back, right? And by the time I was done, she's like, okay, if we didn't have kids, you could have this car. But since we do, you're still getting a minivan. And my son's like, I am never going with you guys ever again. And he's like, just walking to the trash cans, throwing up.
That's
It's like, yeah,
funny.
my wife drives like a mad woman. I think women do when you give them power. That's my thing.
Hey, it's hard not to. I wrecked all. I think I've damaged all three of my BMWs within a month of owning them. All three of them.
Seriously?
Yep. The first one, I ran it.
Oh my god.
I was doing what your wife did. I went around a circle, and I slid off and hit the curb with both tires. Both tires, and the suspension was shot. It
Shot,
was like a
yeah.
$10,000 like fix. My insurance went up. Then the second car, I tried to park it in a small stall, and I hit like a fence and scraped up the wheelbase, whatever. And then the third car got backed into the first day I had it. So my neighbor actually lied about it and told me it wasn't him. And then
Oh.
I said I was going to have the insurance people take measurements and figure out which car it was. And then he left a note and a check on my door to cover the cost. And I'm like, you
Oh,
shit. I knew you did
that's
it.
not bad.
I knew he did it. I know, but it was just funny that he lied about it.
That happened to me in my Miata. I kept them pushing the sharp turns faster and faster because it had the grip. And then one time I did it and it lost grip and it slammed against the curb,
Yeah.
and you could, and like, but it was a lighter
Nah.
car. And
Yeah.
I took it in, and the guy's like, yep, I see a bent axle. I'm like, should I go to CarMax and get rid of it? He goes, I can do it just enough. Take it to CarMax. So that's what I
I
did.
couldn't even get mine home. I had to call a tow truck and get it hauled in. It was completely shot. It wouldn't even work. Both the brake fluid and everything went out. It was just done.
Hey, Florida sounds good. Thanks for that super chat. Should I buy a Best Buy warranty or extend through Sony? Best Buy Geek Squad warranty is the best in the business. End of story. They will even cover OLED burn-in. So if that's important to you, you're getting an OLED, go for it. Then if it's a larger size, they'll come and they'll take it away for you. Sony, I don't know what their policy is, but Geek Squad does an excellent job. But that's why it's expensive. So here's a good follow-up owner's thread for the Q&A has many happy 75, 85-inch owners. Well, there you have it. So maybe it's just an urban myth that the Q90A larger sizes are not great, but just something to keep in mind that Robert was having a hard time finding one for a couple of clients, so it really definitely is a panel lottery. But maybe that's subject to all TVs, right? Looks like it's fixed. Thanks, Ephemeral Pyth. C1 and G1 HDCP handshake issue seems to be solved with an actual firmware update rolled out today in Korea. Okay, well, there you go. So it's solved. Everyone, if you are still within your return period, hold on to it and maybe wait a few days before you return it. Save yourself some time. Where did these questions come from? Should I get it's like next thing I'll get questions about washing machines and dryers. Suzuki, do you know anything about motorcycles?
Absolutely not. I've never ridden a motorcycle in my life.
It could drive as low as 200. This is meaningless to me, Oren. He's like, let's try them out. Maybe we can answer this question.
I'm glad it's not a super chat because I'd feel more obligated.
I feel like we start doing research. Really go to Consumer Reports. Hey, Escobar, thank you for the Peruvian super chat.
I think is it Filipino?
Is it Filipino?
Hey, Filipino peso? I looked it up.
Is that the Filipino peso?
I have no idea. It could be wrong.
Hey guys, not thorough review of the Q800A. Is it really that bad? I don't know.
It's just like, I have a good answer for this. What I've heard is like you're getting an 8K, but it's not even as good as the QN90A. And if you're going to get an 8K, just get the big boy, the 900, So I felt like this 800 is in this weird area where I don't really even want 8K, but it doesn't even perform as good as the 4K QN90A. So why pay more to get it? Just either if you're going to go hard, get the 8K. Agreed. If you don't care about the 8K, just get the QN90A, which is cheaper. I mean, $2,600 for an 85-inch. Is that what you guys said it was?
And it's brighter than the QN800A.
Yeah, exactly.
It's brighter.
And I think the uniformity was worse on the 800.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of uniformity, Billy has some insight. He has both the Q900A and the Q98. Great TVs. Happy with them. Although I have to say it's easier to find an 8K model with good uniformity than the 4K.
There you go.
Possibly. Yeah, there you go.
I'm trying to get one of those 85-inch TVs. I'm just not sure if it's worth it to try the 8K or just go for the 4K. We'll see.
Hey, John. Good question. So if expensive Sony TVs are considered a luxury brand, what does Sony cheap out on a MediaTek SoC for their TVs? Because Sony cannot make everything, and MediaTek is literally the only company out that's making an SoC with HDMI 2.1 gaming features. We're talking 4K 120 VRR. You need a MediaTek SoC, and this applies to Panasonic, right? Panasonic JZ2000 is using the MediaTek. The Philips 936 is using the MediaTek. LG has to make their own chip in order to do what they do, as well as Samsung. So it's not even cheaping out. It's who's the more expensive alternative. It's not out there. And Sony is not in the chip making business. So unfortunately, that's what it is. All right.
Uh-oh, do we freeze? I can still hear you.
Oh, you froze. I can still hear you. Yeah, is it me or you? Oh, uh-oh. Okay, I'm back. We lost somebody. We lost Brandon. So let me try to answer this and wait for Brandon to come back on. Hey, I went 100 miles per hour many times without realizing it in the 3 Series coupe. Smooth at speed. I had no clue. I could not agree more. Oh, all the 3 Series are so smooth ever since 2000. Love those cars. But yeah, I wouldn't get them other than new, though, because it's too much work later. And who's got a super chat right here? Hey, CMS. Thanks for that. Let me throw this back in so I can see myself here. Add this. Much easier. If no discount on the 77-inch, so let's talk about, since we're talking prices, there we go. If no discount on a 77 A80J, oh, I like this position. Amazon has 10% cash back on their CC. Oopsie, it's the only third-party warranty with burn-in. ABT. I've bought appliances at ABT. I like their service a lot. They are a great company to buy from as far as appliances are concerned. I never bought a TV from them, but I imagine their service is just as good on TVs. Have you bought from ABT? Brett?
No, I haven't. I've seen some reviews and stuff by them. I don't really know much about them. I know they've even had like some cameras and stuff, but I go back and just try to get it from someone I definitely know a little bit better.
They used to offer calibrations, Gravy Biscuits, but Best Buy no longer offers calibrations because just two reasons: not enough calibrators, like we have none in Orange County now, and they were only charging $50, so they weren't making money on it. And it was $50, and people still were not calibrating enough. So the person that used to run calibration appointments in Orange County told me there were not enough demand. Literally, I was the one that was the demand for calibrators. I think I had like 6 TVs calibrated by Best Buy in 1 year. So other than me, no one else was calibrating because, as we've seen, people don't have a need for calibration. The TVs are coming out of the box pretty good nowadays.
I had the same thing.
Yep. Hey, Rudolph. Yes, I do see it dropping more around the Super Bowl. I would definitely wait for 2022. I see the X95J, both the 85 and the 75-inch dropping more. Just look at patterns before, for sure. Yeah.
The big TV discount at Super Bowl, right?
Oh, yeah. Big size TVs, especially. David, after all this trouble, what happened? So, David, you'll never believe
turn on. Are you kidding me?
83C01 was delivered by Best Buy. It didn't turn on. 2 more weeks till a new one can be delivered and installed. Panel lottery, my friend, right? We talked about it. You never know when you get a bum TV.
FOMO's TV back here didn't turn on.
Well, we know that one didn't turn on.
No, that was different. This one scared me for a minute. Because like when you plug in a Sony, it takes a minute for it to warm up.
Right.
So I think it got disconnected and I plugged it back in and I couldn't get it on for like a couple minutes. And I was like panicking. I'm like, oh, great. Did my kid come in here and break his TV? And by the way, I got to figure out when to get this TV up to you. We're going to be gone in a couple weeks.
I would say probably any time is fine now. Yeah.
You got that mantle mount yet or not?
The mantle mount's here. So anytime you're ready.
All right.
Anytime,
sounds like next week.
Well, I mean, if you want to come, but I want to give your ankle a chance to heal. Right?
We'll get it. We'll get it done. It's all good. We'll get it done next week.
And do you guys get TVs at dealer price? How can I get those deals? How much is 77A? Well, actually, because it's a race to get these TVs, the answer is no. Like, if you want a good deal from a dealer, you're probably dead last because they got money to make and you have to respect that. So I buy from Best Buy, Amazon, get them in, like the TCL 6 series. Boom. I saw it. I had to get it because TCL would send me one, but how long would that take, right? Because there's not enough TVs coming out there. So definitely, now if you have a hookup because you're willing to promote, sure, look at your dealer prices, but that means you have to find a retailer, start a YouTube channel, right? So, and that doesn't always happen, by the way. So definitely not a steady way to get a TV. Not if it's a one-shot
Most
deal.
of the TVs we get, I do not get a discount on. So most of the stuff I buy it straight from Best Buy.
Or the Hisense, they take it back, right? I'm done reviewing. Hisense says, "Are you done reviewing?" I go, "Yep, I'm done now." Came by and took it back. And thank heavens too, because that's the last thing I need is another Hisense. All right, air fryer. What should I get? I say get the most expensive air fryer on Amazon. That's what I've noticed. It's the most expensive item on Amazon. If you get it and you're not happy, then you feel really good about getting angry and returning it. There's a certain level of catharsis. But if I get the cheapest item on Amazon, I'm like, man, of course it doesn't work because it's the cheapest item on Amazon. And I end up blaming myself. So
we got the Ninja, man. We got the good one. I don't know what it is, but our air fryer is fantastic. Dude, we just go and get wings from the store. My wife hacks them up, throws them in there. They're fantastic wings. She knows what she's doing, man.
Hey, Mr. Walker, I made this mistake last year. So Brandon, you and Classy got to pony up and get that Samsung Q900A for review. I got the Q900TS last year for review, and I'll tell you, the Q90R beat it. That was the last time I ever got another 8K TV. We need to wait until 8K really makes a difference. Otherwise, maybe at the 96-inch size or 100-inch size, you'll see something. But remember, here's the thing with 8K. If your motion isn't 120, the motion blur renders it less than 4K. So what's the point? So you can look at still images all day. Still image 8K, you might notice it, but people are walking around, you got motion blur, that 8K is not resolving. Keep that in mind. It's a sign from the gods, David. No,
Yeah.
I have bad luck with TVs this year. You know what that means? Wait until 2022. Hey, you're going to save some money. Wait until 2022.
Just put that money into Bitcoin and it'll be 10,000 by next year.
Or you hear Cardano is the next Ethereum. Is that what they're
Whoa,
saying? That Cardano is going to kill Ethereum?
No, I think Solana is. So we'll see.
Wait, here's Generation Z. I want to learn how to drive so I can try and get a Tesla. It sounds like my son. I'm trying to make him learn how to drive. He's like, can I just take a Lyft or a Uber, Dad? Can you just give me money? Isn't it cheaper just to buy me a Lyft ticket? And I'm like, when we were kids, we couldn't wait to get our driver's license and get some freedom. Yeah. Now they just want a Lyft account, right? Or an Uber account.
No, my son wants to drive. He's only 11.
My daughter wants to drive. My daughter totally wants to drive. Hey, Steven, thanks for the super chat. Best TV under 2,500. Would go more if worth it. 77-inch or 85-inch? Best place to buy it. So at 2,500, you're in luck. I think the 77-inch C1 or A80J may end up at 2,500 if you wait until next year. But if you need to buy now, let me pop up our thing right here.
The handy dandy price guide.
Handy dandy, 2,500. Where are we at? Well, you get an LG G1 for 2,400. You go to 77-inch. A80J C1 is just above your price range. X95J is at 2,300 now. So there's that. I need to adjust the X95J because it dropped in price. QN90A is at 2,400. So there's that. Q90T is at 2,100. So I'd say X95J, QN90A, and Q90T. Since the X95J could stand to get some more discounts, that one would be the first. I think the QN90A is at its limit where it's going to be discounted, maybe another 100 or two. Q90T is on clearance. It's not going to get any cheaper. It's just going to sell out of that price. So, what are your thoughts? If 2,500 budget, now 85-inch, you don't have many choices. You have the Q70 and Q80 or around 2,000, 2,500. I'd say stick with a 77-inch A80J and hold off until that drops to 2,500. If you need to buy it now, X95J, 2,300. Even though it doesn't say so on my thing, I need to update that, man.
Yeah, what is the 85X90? I thought that was 2,600 now. 2,800? 26? Someone said it in the comments.
1999. It's the X91J.
No,
85-inch X91J.
I'm sorry, the Samsung QN90A.
Oh, it was 3,300, but now it's out of stock. You can't even get it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So you would have to get the QN85A, which is almost as good, a little bit dimmer at 3,000.
But I thought mine was brighter, and if you can get an 85-inch, then it's the VA panel. So I would recommend the QN85A if it was the VA. And to be honest, as an IPS panel, I thought it looked a lot better than like the QNEDs from LG. So
yeah, agreed. Hey, think Samsung and LG will continue to improve their mini LED lines next year? Samsung has nowhere to go. So if many of you have seen people with Q90Rs, they get the Q90A. They're like, yeah, I can see a little bit better. And so for me, the two biggest improvements are definitely the specular highlights got a little bit better, but the black blooming, Samsung has nailed it since the Q90R. So this one, the black blooming control may be noticeably better, but really it's the motion. For me, it's the motion improved. So I get the Samsung Q90A for the motion improvement. I thought it's better. And the peak specular highlights felt a little bit brighter. But that's not a huge improvement given if you have the Q90R, don't get the Q90A. Now, if you don't have the Q90R, a 90R like a Q8FN, okay, that may be some improvement to blooming and black level control. But next year's mini LED, much of the same, I think. Maybe better gaming features that are better thought out. But even then, 4K 60, that's what most people do anyway. 65-inch A80J X95 1800. Where is that price? Oh man, where is that price? Let me see. I keep on missing that price. 65 A80J 1800. Yeah, it's right there. And then the 95 X95J 1800. See, right there. There it is. What I'm missing is the X95J at 2300. I need to update that. So, thank you for keeping me honest, everyone.
The dog is like clockwork. He comes in at 5. I can tell it's 5:30 on the nose because he comes and starts barking at me at 5:30.
To feed him or to go to the restroom?
Oh yeah, no, feed time. Is it time for food?
Is breaking for OLED TVs a thing? Yes, it is. Before calibrating, before doing anything, you need at least 100 hours. Some people argue 200, but definitely 100 hours. Then the colors are settled and you can start doing your settings and playing with the color and tone and all that stuff. So yeah, OLED TVs need 100 hours of watch time before you can really calibrate it. FOMO, do you think LG OLED C1 will go more in price near Super Bowl deals? All the TVs will start getting discounts out of the Super Bowl, but the larger TVs will probably be discounted more. But the big sales really are Prime Day. So if you're waiting till next year, wait for Prime Day if you want the biggest discounts. Super Bowls is normally cheap, large TVs, like cheaper, like things that are normally $1,400 are now $999, right? But the high end stuff, I don't see Super Bowl making a huge difference, honestly. Oh, here it is. Melvin, thank you for the comment. To me, the best TV is the G1. It's not fair that ratings say C1 is better just because it does not come with a stand. We talked about this. I think it's just expensive. The C1's too expensive for what you get. So maybe that's it. It's not a value. But the G1 has the 5-year warranty. And for many people, that's the difference. But what would convince you to get the G1, Brandon, if it was the same price? Is there anything about the G1 that compels you?
I mean, it's a good looking TV. I mean, I said before, like it could be a good TV on a stand. You have to buy the feed or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, here's my use case for that. If I want to put a TV on a wall, probably without a sound bar, because I have a dedicated system or something, and I want the TV to be flat on the wall, especially on walls that like maybe you walk by the side profile all the time. Like if your living room and then you go down the hall and you look past the side, a lot of people that have TVs like that, or when you walk into the house, if you can see the side profile of the TV, they want a nice, clean, flat TV. In that instance, I would always buy the G1 because it looks awesome. It's fantastic.
Yep.
But if the TV's on a stand, or if I don't really care, if I'm going to turn the TV left and right, I'll save a little bit of money and get the C1 because I think they're almost identical. But yeah, the G1 is better. It's just that little mount it comes on is a pile of crap. So that's the only problem. You got to get, it just doesn't sit. If you're sitting up against the wall, it's flat, it's on the wall, it's not moving. Fantastic. So I would get it. I like that TV.
Yes, apparently Korea has fixed it and rolling out updates in Korea. As someone has said, we should expect our update here. So this could be a moot point soon enough. And here we have this QN90A for the win. And so those who have missed it, the QN90A won HDR impact. And this is what I felt as well. So I agreed with that for sure. And it is one of the best living room TVs. I think it may be better than A90J because of its anti-glare that the A90J doesn't have. So yeah, Q90A, spot on. It knows its use case, and Vincent found the use case that I like for this TV.
Nice.
And another one, rated the Q90A above the Q900A. Come on now. Now it's beaten its flagship 8K, right? Do you have any experience with the Oopsie? Have you heard of Oopsie?
No, I have no
I
idea.
don't
I
know what
know
it is. Sorry,
there's the other one,
CMS.
like a green something. Like what was the other one that people were talking about? That I don't know. There's some of these sites that, I mean, basically what they're doing is they're just reselling TVs, or
Yeah.
they get one TV in, or they're trying to take a cut of someone else's stock. Like, I don't know, man. You got to just research it, find some reviews online, see if people have had good experiences with it. But I mean, if you're not buying it from Best Buy, Amazon, or a vendor that like you're probably going to have some sort of issues with it.
Yeah. And here's a person with no DSC, no dirty screen effect, perfect panel, 85-inch Q98. It's amazing. I think so
Awesome.
too. I think it's a great TV.
Good.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
So for a guy who has no money, I don't know, man. 8 feet away, 83-inch C1 is fine. But if you have the money, A90J 83-inch, of course, because
I think the sound is
HDR.
much better on the A90J too.
Oh
So
yeah,
8 feet away, that's
absolutely.
going to sound, the sound will envelop you a lot more with that. But hey, get it
We
sound
helped somebody. You're welcome,
What's
Gustavo.
up?
Thanks for the super chat. Just saying thank you for helping me decide on a TV. Couldn't be happier with my 65-inch A90J. And honestly, that wasn't a hard decision for us, right? If A90J is in your list, come on, you got to go with it.
Nice. Thanks, Gustavo.
Definitely. Hey, Billy B, any suggestions for a slim profile wall mount that still allows for bias lighting on the back of a QN900A? Well, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking like super slim, they have a bunch. I mean, there's a lot of them. You can go on Monoprice. Man, I can't remember if 50. Let me think of it. 5916 might be the ID number. 5916. I'm not sure, but it's a flat mount that has a tilt. It just tilts down, but you don't have to use the tilt down. It sits vertical. It can sit flat. I think it's like $12. Can hold that. Or there's a mount at Costco. I made a whole video about this, so you can check out my TV mounts video. It's quite popular. People are like watching that like crazy. But there's a mount from Costco that is just your tilt and extend Sanus one. It comes out a little, but it sits basically as like less than 3 inches off the wall. So if it's a 65-inch or larger, you don't really even notice that it's pretty flat to the wall. But if you want to get that bias lighting behind it, you want to get an inch or two of depth again or distance away from the wall so you can get that cool look. But it depends on if you need it to just sit flat and never move. There's a bunch of flat flush mounts. There's tons of them on Amazon. But if you want it to turn a little bit, then there's that one at Costco, the tilt and extend, it's called, which turns a little bit, but it still sits less than 2.5 inches from the wall, I think.
And that's just enough for a bias lighting strip, right?
Yeah. And it's nice because you can turn it and you can get the HDMI connections, where if you get one of those flush mounts, you can't even it's impossible to connect anything to it or get back there. You have to take the TV off to connect things.
This is a good question from Australia. Sorry, I don't believe TCL sells an equivalent to the 6 Series even in Australia. I think TCL, for whatever reason, is really gypping Australians of their best TVs. Even Europe is getting something similar to TCL 6 Series. Hisense is giving Australia better TVs than they're giving the USA. So if you're in Australia, I'd go with the Hisense U9 mini LED. I don't know how they're priced there, but it sounds like they're priced very similar to the 6 Series in the US. And there we go. Oh, have you heard of the NV Extreme, the MadVR NV Extreme video processor? I'm very tempted to look into this. Now, TVs do such a good job. I think this is mostly for projectors. So if you're getting something like a ultra short throw with issues tone mapping, this may be something to look at, but I'm going to have to look into this more. But I don't hear anyone in the TV space needing this, because if you get a Sony A80J, A90J, or even X95J, tone mapping, color mapping is spot on. So here's something interesting, Scott. He returned his QN90A. Don't know if it was just me, but really didn't like its game mode performance with picture quality. So Scott, other than the LG OLED gaming TVs, if you try gaming on other TVs, the X95 or the X90J may give you better picture quality in game mode, but it doesn't have the other fancy features. And this is what we talked about. If you don't need those fancy features, get yourself a Sony X95J and game mode looks phenomenal, because the game mode doesn't have the latency the shorter latency of the Samsung, and that's why its game mode doesn't look as good. Samsung is very focused on latency performance. But if it's not important to you, get the Sony.
There was a comment. I don't know how far you are away from it. There was this.
Shoot it up.
Right here. Being FOMO. If the prices are the same, let's just go ahead and spit your order. Which one of how are you recommending these TVs?
Definitely the A90 first and foremost, because it's got the heatsink, which means it cures a lot of issues. It should have everything, because they're all OLEDs. An OLED with a heatsink generally is able to push brighter, push harder without lasting any less, right? The lifetime's gonna be the same. Then I'd go, depending on the size. If it's a 77-inch size, I'd go with the A80J because I like the XR chip. If it's smaller than 77 inches, I'd go with the G1 because I think the G1 at the smaller sizes ends up being more likely than not, you're getting the better panel. And then if you calibrate it, which I do with all my TVs, the G1 may end up being slightly better because in our shootout, it came very close to the A90J. The C1 is the budget value of this group, which is fine, right? But if price is the same, A90 on 77-inch, A80 on 77-inch, and of course 83-inch, A90, it's only one, and C1 would be second place. But then smaller than 77-inch, then I go with the G1 before the A80 or the C1.
Yeah, I did a video on this, and I had
what is your conclusion now?
Well, they'll have to watch my video. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Everyone can watch that video.
They can watch the video. It's fine. I just said, listen, if you put me on the spot and you say, which order would I buy these for my house or whatever, it would be A90J, then A80J, then C1, then G1. And that was just because I think that the A80J is slightly better than the C1, unless you're like a hardcore gamer. And I didn't really see any benefit of the G1 over the C1, whereas the G1 is a little weirder with the mount. And I just don't really, unless I was going to keep it flat on the wall, like maybe a bedroom where I'm not going to ever move the TV, then the G1 would be cool on the wall. So I like the C1 on a stand. It just looks cool. I think it looks awesome.
It looks great.
It's such a cool TV.
Everyone who have these TVs, these are phenomenal TVs.
They're all,
when we say one is better, it's like I have to pull special content to make the A90J look better. But if you're watching Netflix, they all end up looking very similar. So especially with Dolby Vision on.
That was my takeaway, is that I would take any of those four in a larger size than any of the other TVs.
There you go.
And I would take like, I don't remember what I was going to say. That's basically it. I would take the larger size over any of those. And well, the other thing I was going to say is that's the four best TVs in my opinion right there, you know, in the US at least.
You know, it's funny. Speaking of larger size, I want to look at this comment because there's a funny conversation going on. Preston says he's only 8 feet away from the 65-inch, and he's still getting used to it, right? He can't imagine going larger. And when I saw 8 feet 65, I'm thinking, what? And of course, I agree with Flog too. Preston, I thought the same. When I got a 65-inch OLED, now I'm at 82 inches at 7 feet. So this is where we are. Is I was at Joe and Tell's place, and he has a 120-inch, and I was 10 feet away. I'm like, this is just perfect. At some point, it gets too large, obviously, but 82 inches at 7 feet is absolutely fine, honestly. And I'll be sitting about 8 feet away from my 83-inch, whenever it gets here. And I think that's going to be fine. But many of you, because we came from an era where the 32-inch was 10 feet away. Okay, I grew up when I sat 10 feet away from a 27-inch. So, yeah, you get used to it. But then as, you know, you get used to it, it gets easier to keep on upgrading.
Yeah. I'm probably going to have to get going here soon. Got to get the dinner ready.
Oh, yeah.
The old dinner ready.
When you want to wrap up? 2 minutes?
Couple minutes, yeah.
Couple minutes, okay. And I like this comment. Hey, just use a PC with an NVIDIA graphics card for Mad VR instead of paying a lot of money for the Envy. Hey, so does that mean that this is a software with an NVIDIA graphics card doing all this? Because I have an NVIDIA graphics card that will be replacing with a MacBook Pro. So maybe I can use that for my Mad VR, right?
We got a couple good one here.
Shlomo. Gustavo gave us $20 for getting the A90J. So it's only logical you pass it on to him for getting screwed out of the ADS. So he's got the QN90A. And where he's from, it's an ADS panel. And I guess he didn't know that. Now he can't return it. Dude, you and
Sorry,
many
that
angry
sucks.
Brazilians, man. A lot of angry Brazilians also kind of got ripped off there. All right. Oh, you know what? Let's wrap up after this super
Oh,
chat.
is that the one you're going to click on? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Here we
literally
go.
just pressed
Hey.
it.
Okay, guys.
On
We'll take
accident.
maybe one more question. We're gonna wrap up, and don't forget next Friday, Black Friday, we'll be on here and there all day, morning, whatever. So we're gonna put out some polls to see what you guys want to see on Black Friday and what times you're available. I'm sure you guys would be recovering from. Is there a lot of drinking on Thanksgiving? So on Black
Normally
Friday,
that's the Wednesday night before.
was it
When
that
I
before?
was young, it's like we all went home from college the night before and got just trashed, and then I'd like try to like be alive for Thanksgiving at my parents', but it was like really hard. But now I'm the adult.
Now you're the adult, right? Hey, Escobar, thank you for that super chat. QN98 in our country is only offered up to 75 inches. If I want to go 85, there's the QN85A, not bad. 3600 for the 75-inch QN98 and 5300, wow, for the 85 QN85A. There's also the A80J. I would go with the 77-inch A80J because I think it's that much better than the 85-inch QN85A.
And is that the QN90? That's the one you just talked about. That isn't the good one. Like I'm concerned that it's not.
Oh
the,
yeah, I don't know in the Philippines if see. So
or
in
is it
Europe,
the
the
Philippines?
QN90
It
is
was.
completely different
Yeah. No
because they have
idea.
because the 95 has the one connect box. The 94 doesn't, but it's a VA panel, and then they have like a 92 and a 90, but the 90 is an ADS panel in Europe.
Just make sure what you're talking about is a VA panel. The IPS, it can look fine from straight on, but that would probably make us recommend the A80J because, and again, this is hopefully the A80J that we have, right? Like
It
I
is,
don't know.
yeah. There's thankfully Sony only has one model,
Okay.
and the reason is this: with 4500, so you're saving just about 1,000, right? You could put that to a sound bar or whatever, and that would elevate your experience more than the stock sound on the 85. So you can get the full package with the A80J and enjoy it. They're all great TVs, but I'd go with the 77 A80J. I think the blacks would be pretty phenomenal.
I have let's talk about this right before we leave. You got
Yes.
anything? What are you doing this week? I'll put it up once. I don't want to put it up until here. We'll do it like this. There you go. But let's tell people what you're doing this week. You got anything else going on?
What am I doing? I am going to do HDMI 2.1, 2.0 eARC, basically decoding why anyone would get any of those because I think there's so much confusion out there
That's
about
good
that
info.
whole thing. Yeah, it's a
Jonah
lot of
Mathis did a
misinformation.
video on like that, and he got like 1 million views. So
I
people like
know,
that
isn't that
stuff.
crazy? So I think, you know what?
Dang.
I remember that it's that time of the year again because
Yeah.
a lot of the devices, now that we're 2 years into it, have they caught up and are they giving you what you think you're getting? Because just know this, Apple, as awesome as it is, has eARC and has 2.1. Guess what? No lossless audio because Apple doesn't think it's even worth it. So I'm going to look into that and see what's all this business about eARC, ARC, and 2.1, 2.0. Do we really need it? And is it just an excuse to upgrade? So, okay,
Cool.
so that's
And
I think
I'm going to be doing this TV installation video. I'm going to be doing a very basic, easy TV installation. My wife's going to help me. Just anyone can hang their own TV, so check it out. But yeah, I wanted to. This is a funny question: a 48-inch OLED or a 75-inch U6G? Isn't that interesting? It's weird, but we say size over quality most of the time. I mean, this is a huge TV versus a little OLED.
Okay,
so
funny. If I'm 12 feet away, so here's this is good. If I'm 12 feet away, I gotta go with a 75-inch because I don't want to squint to read the subtitles.
And I want everyone to put your comment in. What do you guys think? It's a funny question. I just thought maybe people would want to respond because that's a 60 hertz panel, but it's like 75 versus 48. That's pretty intense, pretty big difference. But there's a lot of 75-inch TVs that are. I know a lot of people would just take a large TV and they don't even know what the OLED is really. So, just thought it would be funny.
Oh,
single in apartment. He says, I'm single in an apartment. I mean, it's still hard to pass up a 75-inch TV, man.
Well, how big is this apartment?
I don't know. I've installed some pretty big TVs, and so and also some people in those apartments that are smaller, they want me to put the TV like almost touching the ceiling. So they got these 75-inch TVs, and they're like I'm like, come on, guys, really? You want me to put it that high? And they're like, yep.
And
I'm like, all right, man.
how hot does this TV get though? It's 75 inches. Would it get? Is it enough to get hot? You think?
No, it's not. I don't think it's probably that small of an apartment. He's got a huge Blu-ray collection. Interesting.
Well,
so the motion may not be as good then, huh?
Then I'd go with a 48-inch OLED.
I would just have to say sack up and get like save some money and get the 77-inch OLED, man. Or at least
A80J.
What about like, do we have any like is the TCL got a 75, the 5 or 6 series? It was
the 6 series, $1,300 for the R646 Google
646, 1,300. Go out and sell some drugs quick. I'm just joking. Don't do that. But yeah, get a Lyft route or something, and the TCL. I heard you guys love that TCL, man. The 75-inch, I'm sure would be awesome. 75-inch TCL. And that's pretty funny though.
This is not overkill. What do you think? Is 8 feet away from 75-inch overkill? Not even close. That's just barely enough.
TV stand 23 inches tall. You put your TV, the bottom of my 83 inches at like 32. It's higher than that because I got to fit like a 24-inch stand under it. So if your TV stand is 23, you can put it at like 26, 28 inches high at the bottom. 8 feet. I mean, it's going to be big. You don't have to get a 75. You can get a 65, 7 to 8 feet away. It'd be fine. But if you get a good 75-inch that's in the price range, why not?
And this is why people want to get a big TV. He only has a 32-inch and here's 75. He's like, oh, right. That's the thing. You always want to get bigger. You don't want to regret that. Okay, we got to wrap up. I think we should all go eat. But hey,
my dog's attacking me. He wants to get fed.
Right. Hey, we'll be back and have a happy weekend. We don't see you until after Thanksgiving. Be safe.
Friday.
But we'll be on next Friday. All right. Thanks all. Until next time, pass the